Tonight at 11, new video showing Nicolás Maduro handcuffed and in federal custody after his overnight capture in Venezuela by U.S. forces. Video of what appears to be Maduro's perp walk in Manhattan, where you can hear him say in English, "Happy New Year."
Good night. Happy New Year.
And that was video just released from the White House.
But why is he saying Happy New Year after his entire country got bombed?
Meantime, protests erupting outside the federal detention center where him and his wife will be held until their first court appearance. You can see people there waving flags. You can see police lights as they try to hold this crowd back.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Pastrana.
And I'm Chelsea Jones. Federal authorities say this is being handled like a bust of a drug kingpin. The couple will face a Manhattan judge on federal charges related to drug trafficking and narco-terrorism.
The mission began with a green light from President Donald Trump. Strikes executed in Venezuela's capital of Caracas by U.S. Special Forces.
Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea.
After months of surveillance and practice, Nicolás Maduro and his wife were successfully captured within 2 hours of the Army's Delta Force touching down.
Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost.
These are images of President Donald Trump and his team watching it all unfold from Mar-a-Lago.
Bro sent 150 B-2 Spirit bombers over there. Of course there's not going to be any equipment lost.
More than 150 U.S. aircraft participated in this overwhelming operation.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison responsible for the deaths of countless Americans.
This picture of Maduro shows him handcuffed and blindfolded aboard USS Iwo Jima. From there, Maduro was then on board this plane. Here it is as it touched down north of New York City. This is him being escorted off the plane before being flown by helicopter to New York City.
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
Sometime in the coming days, Maduro will face charges in a Manhattan courtroom in the superseding indictment unsealed Saturday, alleging not only drug trafficking and narco-terrorism.
Dude, those Epstein files must be diabolical for him to go and bomb an entire country in the midst of all of that shit of it not being underacted and everything like that, for him to, and then he's gonna, dude, Maduro's not gonna make it through. He'll be dead within 3 months, probably 2 months after his trial, I would say.
But also Maduro's alleged ties to the gang Tren de Agua, which allegedly engaged in extortions, kidnapping, murders, and other crimes. As Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez contradicts President Trump's assertion she's being cooperative, Trump says, for the time being, the American government will be in charge.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
And sources tell CBS News House Democrats will hold a virtual caucus meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. A United Nations Security Council meeting is also in the works and could happen as soon as Monday morning.
On September 2nd, in the Caribbean Sea, a U.S. military drone found what it was looking for, a 12-meter-long wooden boat. They're commonly used here by fishermen and also drug traffickers. Typically, the U.S. would stop and search the boat to find out which, but this time, the U.S. just blew it up. 2 weeks later, the U.S. blew up another boat, then another, and another, and another. Donald Trump claimed that dozens of people killed by these strikes worked for drug cartels, and that this was just the start of his new strategy to stop them.
Every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs.
Do you think these people need to be marked as terrorists? Like, honestly. Or could it just be like another Vietnam situation? There's always some type of underlining agenda when it comes to stuff like this. There has to be.
Into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence. We have no choice.
But most of Trump's strikes were in the wrong place. Most drugs are produced in Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Mexico, then trafficked overland or through the Pacific. Then in October, we found out the real target.
Trump is ramping up his military campaign in the Caribbean.
Made it clear he wants Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro removed from power.
Trump ordered the Navy's largest and most advanced aircraft carrier to the region.
Authorized the CIA to operate inside Venezuela.
And warned Venezuela and its cartels that striking land is next.
How did Trump turn a war on drug cartels into a potential war with Venezuela?
This is not stretching the envelope. This is tearing the envelope apart.
Where could he take that war next?
It seems like a recipe for a war that could go on forever.
Trump's right about one thing. The cartels are stronger than ever. The first modern drug cartel was formed in the 1970s by a Colombian named Pablo Escobar.
Most of these cartels have been trained by, I would say, CIA, or some type of American military, whether it be PMC or government official military, has been trained by some of these, by some of these groups, I would say.
He smuggled cocaine through the Caribbean and made millions of dollars. Then he united several gangs into one organization and made billions. By the 1980s, the Medellin cartel was making 80% of the cocaine trafficked into the U.S.
This is not the first time the United States has been in South America. There's a whole history of between America and Venezuela, especially over the oil reserves that are in Venezuela, or in South America in general.
And its private army wreaked havoc across Colombia.
This is the most violent of cities. There's a killing here every 3 hours, some committed by these motorcycle gangs who work on retainers for the cartel.
The Medellin cartel was too powerful for the Colombian government to take on alone, so the U.S. helped by sending its law enforcement agencies and its military.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
Richard Nixon was the first president to declare a war on drugs, but Ronald Reagan's
And Nixon is one of the worst presidents of all time due to Watergate and just being an absolute corruptible piece of garbage.
Charged the military's role in it. He sent so-called military advisors and weapons to Colombia and ordered the Navy to shut down trafficking routes. But the war on drugs wasn't an actual war, and the Medellin cartel wasn't an invading force that the military could shoot without warning. It was a group of criminals. So while the military could help find cartel members, law enforcement arrested and prosecuted them. That's how the U.S. helped dismantle the Medellin cartel, and eventually find Escobar, who died in a shootout. But the war on drugs continued, and presidents kept involving the military in it. George H.W. Bush invaded Panama, partly by citing Panama's leaders' indictment for drug trafficking. Bill Clinton deepened the military.
It's the same old song and dance and routine every single time. That's why I say, why are they being marked as terrorist groups? It's been this way obviously since the 70s, starting with Nixon, as the video said. I don't understand.
Partnership with Colombia, and under George W. Bush, the military shared intelligence with Mexico. This strategy didn't win the war on drugs, but it made a difference.
Had the U.S. never focused on this issue, you could only imagine these groups could be even more powerful, right?
Will Freeman is an expert on organized crime in Latin America.
But has this stopped drug flows or radically decreased them into the United States? No, it has not.
Overdose deaths from cocaine and heroin increased over the last 25 years, and deaths from fentanyl skyrocketed to almost 80,000 in 2023. This demand kept the cartels in business. After the Medellin cartel, the Cali cartel took over. Then Colombians started trafficking through Mexican criminal groups who evolved into even deadlier cartels. When the US and Mexico cracked down on them, they just fractured into more cartels. Today, these cartels are partnering with criminal groups in Europe and Asia to traffic drugs around the world and make tens of billions of dollars a year. More than enough money to corrupt officials, innovate new ways to evade detection, and diversify into other crimes like human trafficking and wildlife poaching.
These are really formidable organizations. And as long as there's that demand and as long as there's robust supply, then fundamentally I think you're going to be talking about putting a lid on a situation, but not eliminating it altogether.
But Donald Trump came into office with a new plan to fight the cartels. It didn't involve curbing demand or law enforcement.
The cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels.
This story is moving super fast.
Look at the corporal of the Marines sitting back there shaking his head like this.
Trump is striking boats in the Caribbean and in the Pacific, and he recently authorized the CIA to work inside Venezuela. Now, what interests me about this story is how different outlets are covering it. This level of insight is only possible thanks to our sponsor this week, Ground News. Ground News is the only website and app that doesn't just track global news events, it dissects them. It gathers stories from all over the world and gives me a clear sense of how they're being covered, whether that's by factuality, or reliability, or ownership, or political bias. In this case, this story is covered by 715 outlets. Outlets on the right are emphasizing how this is a maximum pressure tactic against a tyrant or socialist president. And outlets on the left are focusing on the regime change motive and criticizing the unprecedented acknowledgement of such actions. Ground News also lets me explore stories from all over the world, giving me a sense of what may be overlooked by Western media. Basically, my job is to understand not just what's being covered, but how it's being covered. And Ground News makes that job easier, and I want the same transparency for my viewers. So right now we've partnered with Ground News to offer you 40% off their Advantage plan. That's what I use every day. You can go to ground.news/search party or scan the QR code for that. Ground News and I share the same mission. That's to make the news more understandable and transparent for everybody. So thanks again to Ground News for their support. Now I'll take you back to the story.
Of course, you gotta pay for non-biased or biased news, which is ridiculous. The truth can't just be put out naturally.
It began by focusing on 8 criminal groups, mostly cartels in Mexico, plus Tren de Aragua, a gang started in a Venezuelan prison, and Cartel de los Soles, a criminal network in the Venezuelan military. Trump designated them as either foreign terrorist organizations or...
Oh, I gotta start the washer. My girlfriend's gonna kill me. Or the dryer, I mean.
Especially designated global terrorist groups, labels the U.S. used before.
They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them.
But these labels didn't have anything to do with the military. They just broadened U.S. law enforcement's abilities to prosecute and sanction the cartels and people linked to them.
So whether that is a business which launders money or goes into business with a cartel, to an immigrant who may be forced to pay a ransom fee, it allows to cast that very, very wide net.
But then Trump sent a Navy fleet to the Caribbean and authorized it to strike a boat suspected of running drugs for Tren de Aragua. He then wrote to Congress that the people killed were unlawful combatants in an armed conflict, and that the strikes were in self-defense. In other words, because drugs are killing Americans, and those drugs are trafficked in by cartels, Trump wanted to view the cartels as combatants in a war and use military force against them. Trump wanted to turn the war on drugs into an actual legal war. But can he do that? Under the Constitution, only Congress can declare war, which it didn't. Nor did Congress pass what's called an authorization of military force. If anything, Trump seems to be claiming his power under the Constitution's Article 2, which names him the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. It's how Obama, Trump in his first term, and Biden justified some military operations. It's an already dubious legal argument that Trump is stretching.
That's when Obama was absolutely blistering fucking buildings with drone strikes, with women and children, and people wrapped in bed sheets of all kinds, just absolutely obliterating them.
Even further, because who the military kills matters too. These strikes targeted members of enemy governments, militaries, and rebel groups. Trump is killing criminals.
There are so many problems with that.
Jeffrey Korn is a law professor and retired military lawyer.
Do you think this is racially charged, like honestly? Or is there, I mean, obviously there's always, like I said, there's always some type of hidden agenda, but do you think that this shit is really, like, racially charged, since he did not have authorization by Congress or any of the other stepping stones that you need to do in order to legally declare war? or authorized war. At least Obama, he was targeting ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and I'm sure any other type of extremist group that was in Libya, Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, any places like that. Obviously, we were already fighting over there, but we're in a time of, like, somewhat what you could call peace. So do you think this is, like, racially charged at all?
Lawyer.
Most fundamentally, it's not their goal to kill Americans.
The U.S. considers Al-Qaeda and ISIS to be enemy combatants because they launched attacks to kill Americans, and because they commanded their members to do it.
Think of Farouk Abdab-Muttalib, the underwear bomber. He boarded a plane in London and tried to blow it up because he was obeying orders from Al-Qaeda leadership.
The question now is whether Trenda Aragua commanding people to traffic lethal drugs to the U.S. makes them combatants too.
This is not an evolution of that concept. If you're selling drugs, you want your customer to live, not die.
Trump also hasn't released any evidence that these people were working for Trenda Aragua. This strike reportedly killed a fisherman.
We're killing people, and we don't know who they are, but the truth is, unless and until Congress were to contest this claim of war power, the president is going to run with it.
And Congress isn't contesting it. When a measure came up to bar Trump from striking more boats, Republicans blocked it. So even though Congress hasn't authorized Trump's actions, they've also decided not to stop him. In October, Trump deployed more warships, fighter jets, drones, a submarine, and some 10,000 troops to the region, and authorized the military to strike more boats. But then, Trump went a step even further by claiming that Trenda Aragua is controlled by Venezuela's dictator, Nicolas Maduro. U.S. spy agencies assess that while Maduro may tolerate the gang, he does not control it. But by linking him to Trenda Aragua, Trump is claiming the power to use military force in Venezuela.
When a country is unable or unwilling to prevent its territory from being used by non-state enemies, then we assert the right to act. That's how we went into Pakistan to kill Osama bin Laden. That could very quickly escalate into a conflict with Venezuela.
But why would Trump want to do that?
Un destructor mande sus soldados expertos en misiles a asaltar barcos atuneros. Estaban buscando un incidente militar.
Venezuela has suffered under Maduro. Right after he took power, the country's economy fell apart. Crime increased and millions fled every year, but Maduro remains in power. He survives by stealing elections and corrupting the military and elites for their loyalty. All reasons why Trump may want Maduro gone, but not the only reasons. Trump also blames Maduro for the thousands of Venezuelan migrants in the U.S. and may be pressuring Maduro into letting him send some back. Many suggest that Trump may also want access to Venezuela's huge reserves of oil. But when Maduro offered the U.S. a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil to avoid conflict, Trump refused it, which could mean Trump has a more personal reason to remove Maduro. In 2019, Trump backed a coup in Venezuela that failed.
It was embarrassing for him in the end. Not only was Maduro not ousted from power in the end, the generals and others in his administration rallied behind him. I think Trump wants to win this one.
Trump may also be listening to the people around him, especially the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
Rubio, for instance, for him, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, the three remaining autocracies in Latin America, if he can oust Maduro, I think he believes that Cuba will fall next.
Trump is sending an aircraft carrier to the region, and reports say he might order missile strikes in the coming weeks. But anything short of a land invasion isn't likely to topple Maduro.
He sure did. He sure did. More than a missile strike.
This is a regime that fully controls its own military at the highest levels, has very sophisticated systems of espionage and control within that military, and I don't see him being willing to sacrifice U.S. lives, especially as a president who campaigned on an end to forever wars.
Yep, that's the big thing right there. That's what's gonna hurt him, is that he literally said no more wars. No more foreign wars, no more playing world police by the United States. And here we are doing it again.
The war on terror started after 9/11, when Congress authorized President Bush to use force against basically anyone he could link to Al-Qaeda. Later presidents used these broad limits to justify fighting in dozens of countries for 2 decades. It left the U.S. exhausted and, by some estimates, killed 4 million people. Something Donald Trump...
It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. 4 million people over a hunch.
Trump promised not to repeat.
We spent $9 trillion bombing the hell out of the Middle East. And what the hell did we get other than lots of dead people, all including our people?
Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruption, no wars. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars.
But Trump's war on the cartels has even fewer limits than the war on terror. He doesn't have permission from Congress, nor is he even seeking it.
I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country.
Trump is also claiming the power to kill suspected criminals. That's a much larger group than suspected terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda. Mexican cartels are responsible for most of the drugs trafficked into the U.S., and Trump considered striking them before.
The president pulls me aside on at least a couple occasions and suggests that maybe we have the U.S. military shoot missiles into Mexico.
For what?
He would say to go after the cartels.
But the authority Trump is claiming could also include the power to strike the criminal groups those cartels work with, or any group Trump deems as putting the U.S. in danger. The problem is Trump is claiming the power to go to war against anyone, anywhere, forever.
What could be more of a forever war than going after a set of nameless, faceless cartels until they stop waging war on Americans, which I think we all know is, in some volume or other, never going to stop.
And if Trump can declare war on criminals, what's stopping other countries from doing it too?
Do we really want other governments to be able to say, well, I've got a criminal problem, so now I'm just going to call it an armed conflict and unleash combat power like I'm in a war? There's a human consequence for that.
Congress is supposed to place limits on the president's power to declare war. Trump is showing what can happen when it doesn't. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to Search Party yet, now is your chance to. I want to quickly talk to you about New Press. That's the organization that Johnny, myself, Christoph are building. It's a community-driven journalist project, which means we want to build a place where we can ask you questions about your country, your city, your sport, and you can help us tell some of these stories. So right now, if you use this QR code or go to the link in the description, you can sign up for the waiting list. You'll hear from Johnny Harris first, who's going to tell you what we're cooking up, and there will be a lot more to come. So if you're interested in helping us tell these stories, go to newpress.com. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Those are good videos, super informative. A sub, like the video, save it. Well, boys, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm gonna call it a night. I appreciate everybody that's came by and hung out with me, playing WoW, playing Battlefield, doing a little bit of reacts at the end. Appreciate everybody that came by. Hope you guys have a good night, and even better.